Why Joe Rogan and Howard Stern don't like each other. I wasn't really even aware of this, but I'm curious to find out.
All the time. Joe is angry with me. He has a problem with me, and I know why.
Why exactly do Howard Stern and Joe Rogan hate each other? It's a feud that's lasted over 20 years and includes multiple different reasons.
Looks so different.
Made crazier by the fact that they used to be pretty good friends. This could be seen during Joe's very first appearance on Howard Stern, where in September 2000, Howard began by praising one of Joe's comedy segments.
One of the best bits we've played on the radio.
Comedy. Why am I not? Okay, you know what? Hold on. Right, I only knew him for Fear Factor. I'm not even kidding. I didn't know anything else about this guy. So you're saying comedian, and I'm like, what?
A bit by Joe Rogan, who stopped by today, and I want to play it for you right now. Here's Joe Rogan's bit.
After playing the lengthy segment, Howard and Joe talked about how much they liked each other.
A great bit, a great comedian, Joe Rogan. Good to meet you, Joe. Finally have you on the show.
What's happening, man?
How you doing?
This is an honor.
Yeah. It's an honor to meet you.
After which Joe Rogan became a regular guest on the show until the first incident of February 2002. Howard and Joe's friendship had strengthened in the
It's a long time ago.
Prior, so much that they'd spent time together outside of the show. On the 6th of February 2002, the pair flew to Vegas where they'd end their evening at a strip club. In a state of intoxication, Joe made some jokes/comments about the girls there, done so in a private setting between friends. Although when they'd record a Stern Show episode the very next day, Howard tried to publicly call Joe a misogynist by airing his comments from the night before.
And then we went over to Club Paradise. Joe Rogan, you try to act like you're above the strip club.
Oh, come on.
Above the strip club.
I'm trying to act like I'm above it. Well, I mean, you're like,
oh, these girls, they don't like me.
What are you talking about?
Yeah?
No such thing.
He goes, oh, these whores, this and the other. Meanwhile, you love these girls.
I don't say it that way. You know, Howard,
I think you're angry with women.
This was obviously a bit embarrassing, but Joe didn't
Wow.
seem all that concerned. It was the early
He really called him
2000s,
out.
and controversial moments were an expectation on Howard Stern's show. Only as time progressed, Howard refused to let the moment die and would push the same narrative in a later episode when Joe wasn't there.
Joe hates women. Joe's weird. Like
He definitely has a difficult time.
I've gone to strip clubs
Okay.
with him, and he's like, get out of here.
She's agreeing too, though.
Meantime, Howard tried
Weird.
to manufacture even more embarrassment by inviting a girl Joe had been with in the past to sabotage his reputation further.
He was my first.
Why?
You're kidding.
It wasn't really a one-night stand. It was like a trailer.
By the way, you were Joe's 350th one night stand.
That's fine.
Oh my gosh.
Joe,
You learned a lot from him?
Yeah.
Sweet.
what did you learn from Joe?
Well, after that wonderful one night stand, I got pregnant, and I.
What?
Yeah.
What?
What?
Joe, you knocked her out.
What? Like me, I'm saying that too.
I never kept it.
Thank you, Jesus.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Thank you, Jesus.
Joe played the awkward moment off like it was no big deal. However, this was much harder
My
after
God.
Howard then invited Joe's actual ex-girlfriend onto the show.
But how did he hurt you? Did he cheat on you?
Why?
Joe, what is your problem?
Did you think you had an exclusive relationship with him at the time when he
This
cheated?
is on the radio for the world.
I did.
You did. Joe,
You're going
How did
hard
you
on me,
find
bro.
out?
Joe, let me ask you. I mean,
Hey,
Wow.
why cheat on her? Why not be honest?
you know what? We used to have huge fights, and then I would.
Yeah, but why the cheating?
And having grown tired of being embarrassed publicly, Joe's appearances on the Stern Show became
What the heck?
less frequent than non-existent. Noticing the pair's potential fallout, fans took to the Joe Rogan official forums where they'd bring up the original strip
Joe
club
Rogan
incident
official
before they'd
forums?
receive clarity from none other than Joe Rogan himself. He'd write, "My problem with Howard's version of the story
5 years
is that
later.
it's complete crap. I never said getaway whores to anyone. There are a lot of aggressive strippers that were trying to get guys to buy lap dances. Howard and some of the other guys were getting them and I didn't want one. The girls were pushy and all I kept saying is no thanks. Somehow that turned into getaway whores when he got on the radio. When you've got a guy that you respect and admire and you've done his show a bunch of times, you think that you're friends. Then when that guy turns on you and talks badly about you, especially when it's not true, it's a gross feeling."
Okay. So if that's how it really went down, I don't know. Joe Rogan so far hasn't said much. Like, I mean, he did say what actually happened, but it's like, I don't know what's true. But it is true that people will get onto you for being like a prude or too like you don't want to get into stuff or do the same things that they're doing at the party. Yeah,
I'm a loyal
I can
friend,
see
and
that
stuff
happening,
means
but
a lot to me. If I had a friend outside of show business and he gave a distorted account of me like that, I would stop hanging around him and I wouldn't trust him anymore. As for
isn't he a little too old for that? Howard Stern, like, if that is what happened, but he already said, you think you're above the strip club. So, which isn't a bad, I mean, you know, whatever. That could have literally been the only reason.
Howard, I have no ill feelings. I still listen to Stern all the time. I was always a huge fan of the show. I'll probably do Stern again sometime. I just thought that whole situation was really weak and I didn't want to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's
Having
embarrassing.
confirmed that the two were in fact fighting, Joe was asked about the feud in various radio appearances.
The alleged feud with Howard Stern and Joe Rogan here. Howard has nothing but good things to say, and he was always wondering why you don't do his show anymore.
At which point he'd elaborate further.
He is.
Howard said, you know, Joe hates women. And I listened to that and I was like, that's not true.
He
Like,
did.
I was like, you know, what do I do? Do I go on and defend myself? And then you get into that weird cycle of, you know, like accusing and defending. And like, I don't like negativity. I don't like conflict, you know? There's like a whole...
And Robin agreed too, so it's like it's even more awkward. It's like everyone's agreeing and
No, that's very true.
However, Joe discussing their feud only added fuel to the fire, as Howard then took to his own show to offer his side of the argument.
Speaking of feuds, Joe hasn't appeared on our show, Joe the comedian. So I told you Joe had some
Okay.
problem with me, so he discussed it with Craig Fitzsimmons.
He won't discuss it with us.
No, and you know, I remember the exact incident and everything, and I knew this is what
well, yeah, you were in it too.
This is Joe's, you know, this is what Joe said.
He said something about me on the air that I didn't like. He said I hate women. And I was like, come on, man, really? First of all, I'm going to have to defend that. So then, you know, whenever
Okay.
you're defending something...
I mean, that's a serious statement to just say out loud to the public, you know, your fans, about some other person who's also in the public eye. That's a pretty big statement. It could really affect his career and things. So
automatically looks like you're being
Yeah.
defensive. I don't even want to be involved. And I said, I'll just be a fan again.
And Joe's right. You know, it's better he doesn't come on because he's building this thing up. I understand what he's saying, because if you start dealing with it on the air, then it becomes even bigger.
To me, let it go. You know, come back in and let's have fun again.
Yeah.
You know.
I like it better this way.
it's weird.
You know what I mean?
It was clear that Joe and Howard weren't exactly best buddies, although to make matters worse, all of this went down 6 months before Joe had even started his podcast, which only damaged their relationship.
Oh,
further.
just 6
In March
months.
2015, Howard made the claim that podcasts are for losers, prompting Joe's friend Ari Shafir to bring up the topic on episode
Okay.
623.
You're upset with Howard Stern because he said that shit about podcasting.
That's the new thing I'm upset with Howard Stern over. It just shows how much he's lost touch. Like, that's not the way you become a radio
Okay.
DJ. Stern, no one wants to become a radio DJ who's doing podcasts. That's not our end goal. Anyone who listens to a podcast and listens to Howard Stern, just so you know, Howard Stern called you a loser for listening to podcasts as well.
This gave Howard Stern the chance to respond.
I got taped.
But
from
I
Joe
wanna hear
Rogan's
it.
podcast, 'cause he had a comedian on there who was bad.
Oh, no.
He's a 41-year-old comedian I've never heard of, nor has anyone else. Dicking around with some podcast, and he's hurt that I said that podcasts are no good. And if you sit in your room and do a podcast, you're pretending to be a broadcaster. Take the podcast and throw it out the
What?
window. You're 41 and you're on Joe's podcast, and no one knows who you are, and no one's going to hear you. This guy
Oh
is
my
like a
God,
street
kinda
performer giving
bullies.
advice to Paul McCartney. Howard's old. He doesn't understand podcasting. No, I understand it perfectly. He goes, and by the way, everyone who has a podcast, Howard Stern's calling you a loser. Yeah, I stand by that. It's exactly what I'm doing.
However, despite Ari getting absolutely
Okay.
destroyed, it was obvious that Joe was trying to avoid drama.
Stern has really good interviews. They're really good.
Still, new ones?
Listen to him complimenting, like, I don't know, Howard Stern seems super defensive and
He
angry.
might have some ideas that I don't agree with, like the podcasters are losers, but like that guy's the number one
Right.
guy of all time.
Which was in
Let
turn
people do what they need to
appreciated by
do.
Howard.
Joe was nice. He was like, you know, saying, hey, Howard's a great broadcaster. Why don't you listen to what he's saying? You know, Joe was like, are you for real?
In a 2019 article titled Howard Stern Says
Wait,
He Has
that's not what he
Changed How
said.
Much, Stern was asked, do you listen to Joe Rogan's podcast? To which he'd respond by stating, I'm a fan of Joe Rogan. I've never watched the entire podcast, but there's tons of clips of him, and he does a really good job, showing that perhaps they've resurrected their friendship. Although the very next question was, is there an issue between you guys? To which Howard stated, yeah, there is. I was a fan of Joe's comedy. I was a big proponent of his before he was a host on TV. Before
I was about to say, like, how long ago has it been since he's done the comedy only? I only know him from being a host on TV and now the podcaster. I don't know any, like, you know. He does other
Everybody
things.
fighting or whatever. Joe was a guest one time and I said something to him off air, which I won't go into, but he took offense. I haven't heard or seen him since. I think he made the decision that I was toxic for him, but I hold no grudge. Showing
But you're
that there might have been
constantly
another private incident
bashing
between
him.
them, as was also suggested by this clip.
I said something to him in private, and he was insulted by what I said. I don't even know if he has dislike or something. I don't know. But no, I won't be having him on, but that's not my idea. That's it.
You brought his exes on to gossip about him in front of him. Oh my gosh. I don't know. You didn't just say something in private. I don't know. At least be
Despite this,
honest.
The interviewer then asked Howard, has he invited you on his show, to which he'd state, he hasn't, I'm not opposed to it. I've asked him to come on my show, but he doesn't want to, and I respect that it's not meant to be, which only became more ingrained in the very next year of 2020.
Again?
Joe began the year by once again praising Howard Stern.
Whatever anybody wants to say about Howard Stern, he opened the door for podcasts, for sure. All these outrageous people doing podcasts, he made the roadmap.
However, as the pandemic
Wow.
made everything about politics, it became apparent that Howard and Joe held completely different opinions. While Howard Stern was vigorously pro-vaccine, Joe made it clear that he'd rather use alternate medicine, leading Howard to resuscitate their very public feud.
Like I heard Joe Rogan was saying, he says, what are you busting my balls? I took
You heard. So you watch every single podcast, don't you?
COVID, yeah.
He goes, I took horse
dewormer, yeah.
and a doctor gave it to me. Well, a doctor would also give you a vaccine. So why take horse dewormer?
Joe provided no response to
Oh
Howard's
my
comments, and
gosh.
instead continued to host the podcast as he'd done so previously. Showing no interest in changing his stance, Joe was then pressured by the public to alter his behavior or explain his actions, eventually leading to this video.
I'm just a person who sits down and talks to people and has conversations with them. Do I get things wrong? Absolutely, I get things wrong.
Although it seemed Howard Stern wasn't satisfied with Joe Rogan's response. The whole thing with Joe Rogan is so silly to me, Stern told listeners on Tuesday. Even the apology, he just should have said, you know what, listen, I'm a comedian and I have no idea what I'm talking about.
My God. Let it go. He's trying so hard. From what I'm seeing in this video, he keeps trying to be nice to him. The heck, Howard? Why are you so petty? And not the good kind, not the fun kind. Okay.
About. I
Hold
have
on.
no medical background whatsoever to be telling people what to do with their health. Stern.
I don't know. I would have to watch it. I don't know if he told people directly or did he just say what he did. Because I can kind of see both ways on this vaccine thing. I used to be all about the vaccine, but I kind of just have been getting tired of trusting people and companies who directly profit off of me using their product. And it's like, unfortunately, big pharma is going to profit big time off of this. So I can understand both sides of why people think the vaccine's good or why they think it's bad. And I can't blame either one. But Howard, you're being a bit much. Why do you need to tell people you have no medical background? I think people know that.
Stern continued. He should issue an apology saying, I'm wrong and go and get the vaccine.
You have to be responsible for yourself. Whoa, go back. He should issue an apology saying, I'm wrong and go get the vaccine before you die. Why? What a stupid thing to say. People have to decide for themselves.
Although Joe maintained his refusal to argue and instead continued to praise what Howard had done for radio.
People to this day, they make fun of Howard Stern because of who he is now and the way he behaves now. That guy.
I think he's had enough.
When he was the king of all media, and now he's woke. It's crazy.
Roughly 2 months later, Joe was once again asked the following.
What do you think of what Howard's become recently?
Well,
he's the only person I know who's gone, other than Penn maybe, who's gone from being red-pilled to blue-pilled.
Yeah.
Although the conversation went elsewhere before Joe would give an answer, prolonging the feud until the two media legends clash again in the future.
Jeez, it's like a forever feud. Well, that was dramatic. I don't understand. You don't have to keep talking about each other forever. But I can see how Howard kind of initiated it. But we don't know. We don't actually know what happens in the strip club that night. it could have gone two ways. Joe could have been like not interested at all, and then Howard just thought he was lame, or Joe could have been disrespectful and Howard didn't like that and forever disliked him for that. I don't know. But it's kind of weird to talk about someone you hate publicly over and over. It's embarrassing. But yeah, that's all I've got for this one. Let me know what you think if you want to see more videos like this, and I'll see y'all next time.